From the G and Ursula show, here is Ursula Reutin.
Good morning.
I wanted to bring up a scenario because someone I know pretty well, and I trust this account, told me about a ride home from the airport. We've all had stories about rides home from the airport here and in various countries. But in this case, it was an Uber driver, and they noticed early in the ride, and a child was along in the car seat, that the lane keeper warning of the car kept going off. And looking at the driver, he was sort of, nodding. The head was bobbing up and down. And it's pretty clear that he was probably too sleepy to be driving. So, they try to engage him in conversation to keep him awake, do the diplomatic thing. But he doesn't speak that much English, so it's hard to do. And so the question is, at what point do you say, I'm scared, pull over and let me out?
I'm going to say what he should have done, and then I'm going to share a story where I didn't take action, and I regret it to this day on the exact same thing. But what I would do is exactly what it sounds like he tried to do, which is keep engaging, language barrier or not. Making noise will keep somebody, even if you're trying to ask that person a question, the driver the question, it will keep him up. And then there's just a universal sign language saying, show that you're sleepy or that you're worried, and just say you're not fit to drive. You're not able to drive, which I know goes against the grain. A lot of people don't like confrontation, and I get it. But you're talking about your life
and death, yeah.
You're talking about your child's life, and then potentially people who are on the road.
Right.
Okay, so it's clear as day what he should have done for me right now as you ask this. But I had the exact same situation where I didn't do something. And it was when Mark and I came home. My husband and I came home from a cruise. And we were at the cruise terminal, and you just pick up a taxi. And we don't live that far. But this taxi driver, every single stop, his eyes were shutting. And Mark and I were looking and thinking, does he have a medical condition? Because there wasn't any problem with his driving until he got to a stop sign or a stop light. And I mean, he literally looked like he was sleeping. And we kept nudging each other, but we didn't do anything. And I regret it, because then only after we got to our house safely, I thought I should have called the taxi company at the very least.
Said something. Well, Uber does have a provision on the app to report drowsy driving. So you can do it that way. You ever been in that situation, David?
Well, I mean, so coming from a perspective of someone who has been sleepy a lot while driving, just due to crazy work hours and different things, there is almost nothing more dangerous than that. I mean, you could get behind the wheel and be impaired and probably have better judgment than if you're nodding off. So it's a really, really scary thing to deal with. And I think it's an ethical question, because when you're in the back of an Uber, there's almost nothing you want to do less than talk to the Uber driver, especially you're on your way back from the airport. You're probably just exhausted. You want to get home. And so for me, if they're not engaging in conversation, there's a language barrier. That's a time when I will pull out my phone and just start, scrolling through TikTok or something and have the volume up as loud as possible.
That's a good
as
tactic.
another sort of subtle
Just
sign.
find a really annoying website.
Exactly. Be the most annoying passenger possible, and hopefully that keeps them awake. And, worst case scenario, you've got to, especially when you've got a kid in the car, you've got to get their attention, be like, hey, sorry, I have to get out of the car right now.
I'm guessing, though, that Uber drivers and taxi drivers are used to all sorts of mayhem in their car. So I don't even know if you're turning on your TikTok that it's going to stop them. I mean, I think you have to be very, somewhat confrontational, but do it in a way that, hey, this is for our safety. I don't feel safe.
I'm guessing the problem is that with the Uber business model, you can choose how much you want to work, and if you're feeling that you need some money this week, you're going to push yourself. Now, I know they have limits, they have windows, but my understanding is there's nothing to prohibit you from also signing up for Lyft. So you could be, double dipping, and if you're desperate enough to make money, burning the candle at both ends, which again is unsafe. I'm happy to give equal time to Uber and Lyft drivers who may be listening. You can use the text line and just tell us what you would do in a situation like that.
Well, I'm going to guess that they would want to be safe as well. And so I think there is that pressure. Maybe it's a home pressure or just work pressure where they do have to work a lot of hours to make ends meet.
Yeah. But I mean, that was true for truckers too, and we clamped down on that,
Yes.
right? I mean, there are mandatory, same thing with airline pilots or anybody in some kind of public transport. But as far as I know, there's no way to enforce limits on gig drivers, right?
Well, I think the best way would be everything that we just discussed. And again, I regret to this day that I didn't do that with the taxi driver, and I was just hoping that someone else didn't get hurt.
Ursula Wrighting, G and Ursula starting at 9. Thank you, Ursula.
Thank you.